we have a problem with wealth. And this is true of the left and the right. Someone is really, really, really rich. They believe they should be above the rules and regulations, the requirements and traditions that the rest of us must live by. You don't have to be rich. You could just be sociopathic. You remember those comments that Boris Johnson's teacher at Eton made about him thinking that the normal rules just don't apply to him. But we also agree with that. There comes a point, doesn't there, when you sort of think that somebody is it above the law? It's not quite the law, it's subtler than the law. It's a level of wealth that buys you an impunity that the rest of us can barely imagine, where you're so rich and so powerful that nobody can ever really touch you. And that leaves politicians with a huge problem. Do you know, I got sent a clip over the weekend by a pal who, and I've seen it loads of times, and I mentioned it to you before, but he was convinced that I was possessed of some sort of clairvoyant skills, that I was the mystic Meg of media. Because I was on Have I Got News For You a long time ago, and I knew very little about Elon Musk that week. I think it was just the space stuff that he was doing long before he bought Twitter and turned it into a sewer. And I described him as a Bond villain. I think the Bond villain that I had in mind was is it Jonathan Pryce in The World Is Not Enough, or have I got my references mixed up? And I just felt that the only space in which we encounter that level of power is in fiction. Before the tech bros, before the Bezoses and the Zuckerbergs, I guess you had it in the 19th century with industrial barons, people who made all their money out of coal and oil and mills. But I don't know in the second half of the 20th century that we had that kind of that wealth so huge that it almost renders an individual more powerful than a government. And that is the problem that we've got today. The scenes on Saturday were very striking. The numbers were very high. I don't know how helpful it is for people on my side of the political divide to point out that they were a fraction of the turnout for the Please Let's Not Leave the European Union marches and the like. Because that's a bit of whataboutery. The numbers were huge. From the point of view of the serial criminal that organised it, it was an enormous success. And I am prepared to believe at this point that some of the people who went there were sort of perfectly prepared to ignore the provenance of who was behind the whole thing and who they were potentially marching alongside. And they did have what people like to describe as legitimate concerns. But think about what those legitimate concerns are. Very hard this morning to feel sorry for Keir Starmer. But goodness me, the overall immigration figures have come down faster and further than at almost any point in living memory. You can, of course, argue that they were too high to start with, but if that's your problem, if that's your beef, the fact that they have come down faster and further than at almost any other point in living memory should surely have cheered you right up and given you loads of cause for celebration. It struck me as well yesterday, while I was thinking about Ted Heath on the plane back from Dublin, that you also have this extraordinary... We should have noticed this, and I apologise to you for not spotting that as soon as the government changed, the story, the narrative about immigration was going to change as well. As soon as the government changed and the Tories were no longer in power, then the Tory press was going to start banging the immigration drum harder than it had ever banged it before. No matter that the problems were literally caused, the latest, quotes, problems, end quotes, were literally caused by Brexit and Boris Johnson's determination to paper over the cracks that he had caused in, for example, care and hospitality by allowing people to come here while pretending that they couldn't. No matter that the likes of people like Chris Philp complain about the number of asylum seekers in hotels, while the number is measurably and demonstrably lower than it was when he was a Home Office minister. Once these genies are out of the bottle, there's almost nothing you can do to get them back in. So if you were vaguely interested in statistics or evidence, then you should have been having your massive march through London 5 years ago. You should have been having your massive march through London to complain about the consequences of Brexit. But there it goes. There it goes. There goes the truth over that horizon, disappearing at a million miles an hour. And what replaces it? Well, extraordinary claims from somebody who must qualify as one of the most powerful men in the world, not just by dint of his wealth, but by dint of his ownership of what we used to call Twitter. We must have revolutionary government change. That's fine. You'll find someone at Speaker's Corner every Sunday down at Hyde Park saying something similar. It could have been Jeremy Corbyn. We must have revolutionary government change. Could have been Bernie Sanders. This really requires everyone to sort of marshal the people. What does that mean? Well, I mean, genuinely, what does that mean? To marshal the people. To take charge. Okay, by democracy. To reform the government and make sure that you actually have a government that is for the people, by the people. This is a foreign billionaire interfering in British democracy, negating and challenging sovereignty, which I thought that a certain section of our society cared passionately about, and apparently demanding some sort of overthrow. And then violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. The left is the party of murder and celebrating murder. And people on the left were openly celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I saw something extraordinary on social media. I'm on the Blue Sky platform, which is imperfect, but there's a reason why organs like the Financial Times and The Economist and anybody else, any other outfit dedicated to impartiality now put the bulk of their output on there. But I saw something on there that was frankly incredible, actually, even as quite a careful student of these matters. And this is on the platform that Musk owns. The AI bot, is that the right word to use? Grok, it's called, G-R-O-K, the sort of AI option that operates on X, answers your questions using its ability to sift through all of the reportage and journalism and statistics and details that are available. And they wrote, Grok, the thing he literally owns, and which is supposed to be a sort of impartial arbiter of facts. In response to a question, it wrote, based on recent reports, Charlie Kirk was killed on September the 10th, 2025 by suspect Tyler Robinson, whose online activity referenced far-right memes and fascism. Voter records show no party affiliation, but some sources link him to conservative views. Right, I'll carry on reading that in a minute. The rest... this is me speaking now. I don't think from what I've been following you can make any major statements about what his motivation was at the moment. He seems to have been terminally and perennially online, and the notion of a political ideology has certainly not been established and may well never be. Which brings us back to where we were last week, which is this sort of violence is awful, whoever does it. This sort of violence is disgusting, whoever does it. If he turns out to be a lifetime membership of the Democrats, the action of assassination is disgusting. If he turns out to be a lifetime member of the Republican Party, the action of assassination is disgusting. There are days when I sit here and I'm conscious of the camera. There are days when I'm not conscious of the camera, but I'm conscious of the camera when I can't quite believe that I'm having to say what I'm having to say. There are two types of people in this world. People who are in favour of political assassinations and people who are not. People who think that all political assassinations are awful and trying to use them to score political points or to make political capital is absolutely reprehensible, dangerous and quite possibly insightful. And there are people who don't believe that. There are people who will seize upon the opportunity to make hay from a murder because they are either lying or persuaded or correct in thinking that the murderer has certain political views. And Grok goes on. Remember, this is the thing that Musk actually owns. Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in June 2025 by Vance Bulter, a confirmed Trump voter. And then the statistics. ADL data shows, I presume that's the Anti-Defamation League, but I should probably have double-checked. 75% of US extremist murders between 2013 and 2022 were by right-wing actors. Those sources like CSIS note rising far-right threats, while Cato emphasizes overall rarity and includes other ideologies. That's Cato Institute. Definitions of political murders vary across studies. Relatively uncontroversial. I mean, uncomfortable reading for people pretending that their political opponents on the left are more likely or guaranteed to engage in political violence. But again, if you subscribe to the view that all political violence is reprehensible, then it's not uncomfortable reading at all. Elon Musk himself wrote, "My apologies, we are fixing this cringe idiocy by Grok." So on the platform I own, the engine I provide, the means that we provide to allow you to get unbiased and impartial answers to your questions, has provided an answer I don't like, therefore I'm going to change it. But he's the free speech guy, censoring an actual computer program, if, again, that's the correct vocabulary. And speaking of vocabulary, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. Violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. Speaking to between 100 and 150,000, the official figure seems to be about 110,000 people in London. Most of them wouldn't have been able to hear it, but you can hear it now. You either fight back or you die. I mean, can I say, what's he talking about? Can I ask that question? Does anybody actually know? Does everybody know, but nobody's prepared to say it? What on earth is he talking about? When was the last time an incredibly powerful person on this planet whose politics don't seek to blame immigrants or foreigners for all the problems of our society? When was the last time one of them told you to be violent? It could be rhetorical. But an awful lot of the less pleasant reactions to Charlie Kirk's killing last week were rhetorical, and that hasn't stopped people making lists, rounding up names, agitating for them to get fired. The free speech champions, marking the murder of a free speech champion, their words, not mine, by calling for people to be fired or worse for exercising free speech. Elon Musk addressed a British audience in Britain, albeit via satellite technology, and told them that violence is coming to you. This is the most ultimate provocation, to tell people that if they don't fight, then they will be victims. Violence is coming to... Well, have a listen yourself.
Violence is going to come to you. You will have no choice. You're in a fundamental situation here where whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Not hearing many boos there, if any. I mean, and to be fair, I'm sure spirits were high, but for goodness sake, do we know what he was talking about here? So there are two questions. What is he actually saying? 0345 6060973. And while I obviously am a great believer in free speech, I should probably caution you to think before you contribute to the programme, because some people don't like you exercising your free speech. And the second question is, should Keir Starmer be doing more about this? That there seems to be a division among the bien-pensants or the liberal intelligentsia, or just the people who don't think that some poor fella who fell off a boat last week is responsible for the fact that you haven't got a pay rise this year. There seems to be some dispute about whether or not Keir Starmer should be doing more, should be addressing this. He's made a speech about being opposed to the co-opting of flags. But what is happening here? It doesn't come from the sky like big bombs. It creeps up on you. Martin Rosen wrote something quite brilliant about the carpet-slippered creep. The carpet-slippered creep. You don't notice that it's happening. If this speech had been made 10 years ago, what would our reaction be? There wouldn't have been 110,000 people out in London. And I think we would have had the confidence and the courage to say, hey, foreign billionaire, get out of our heads. Stop telling our neighbours that they should be attacking us, if that's what he's doing. And if that is what he's doing, then what should Keir Starmer be doing about it? Sovereignty, big word in recent years. Well, I mean, that got ridden roughshod over, if I've understood these words correctly. Freedom of speech, that got ridden roughshod over, if I've understood his words correctly. Democracy, that got ridden roughshod over, if I've understood his words correctly. Peace, the advocate, opposition to all violence, up to and including the murder of political activists, however unpleasant you find their views. Absolutely, diametrically, incontrovertibly, irrefutably, unapologetically, 100% opposed to it. Always, whoever it is. But you either fight back or die?